20 best games of 2024.
We're about at the halfway point of 2024, depending on when you're watching.
Yeah, we got to watch the longer ones, though.
Being at the halfway point of the year, we haven't even hit the big holiday season yet. We've already had plenty of awesome games this year. While yes, the gaming news
Senua's Saga 2, great game.
There are still plenty of solid things.
No, Kingdom Hearts is not the best game.
Games we're talking about today.
No, it is not.
So let's get started off with number
20.
Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown released a few months back.
I have not played this.
Great. It's a really
I played the originals. They were awesome.
For the Prince of Persia series. Well, yeah, you're not actually technically playing as the prince. You're playing as Sargon, a kind of god in Persian mythology here.
Okay.
It's a throwback in terms of simple 2D straightforward platforming, but with a lot of really awesome action.
That's pretty cool.
The Lost Crown is challenging, creative, and fun with a good Prince of Persia feel to it. You're running, you're jumping, you're wall running, you're manipulating time to dodge booby traps and kill enemies, and it is so satisfying to play.
Damn, it does look really good.
The gameplay and movement is really fluid and smooth. I can't say enough good things about The Lost Crown. If you like 2D action adventure, Metroidvania style games, but you want something with more of a Prince of Persia flair, consider this.
See?
Next, over at number 19, we have Punishers, Ghosts of New Eden.
I saw this one.
Radar for some people because it's not really a mainstream
I wanted
concept,
to play it,
but it's still really cool. Essentially, you play as a ghost hunter in a kind of weird alternate history 1600s. Not only are you a ghost hunter, but your partner also is. But unfortunately, they die at the beginning of the game. So
I was going to say, yeah, I think that's what happened.
And your ghost wife going around trying to solve mysteries.
Oh, that's cool.
The game has exploration and some okay combat, but really it's about the questing, the missions, the going around talking to NPCs, gathering clues, figuring out what's going on with these spirits, and deciding whether or not to banish them. It's got a lot of good RPG conversational dialogue depth that you probably would really want to sink your teeth into. Speaking of teeth, if you played Vampire or Vampire,
it did.
This is a game similar to that. It's from the same people, but it's creative.
Vampire was all right.
Something a little
I don't think I finished it.
Here. It's not a perfect game, but it's cool. Next, over at number 18, we have Like a Dragon: Infinite Wealth.
Oh, yeah.
This game is just fun factor.
I gotta catch up to where we're at, bro.
Franchise and really brings it in a new direction. I know the previous game did, but this game takes it even further with Ichi and also the classic and legendary Kiryu, and brings them through a fun, lighthearted adventure that also has a lot of introspection, and it does get deep. But really, you're dropped into a fun, colorful, new tropical setting with tons of fun diversions, even better turn-based combat, and just a lot to really keep you busy.
Dude, that Kiryu haircut looks like
their own
damn
new
Majima
identity compared to the old Yakuza games, and they are incredibly special. People really love this.
Unless that is Majima, I don't think it is.
Next, over at number 17, we have Persona 3 Reload. This is a
Persona
remake,
3.
re-release.
I never played it.
Original, classic, beloved Persona 3. For some people, this
Persona, everybody says, is really good.
A good streak.
I just never played it.
Whatever you think about the series, this is a great place to start. It's got really cool vibes, a very different aesthetic, great combat, incredibly memorable characters, and frankly, it's just a JRPG worth experiencing. There's a reason why they re-released this thing, and there's a reason why we're including an older game re-released on this list. It's that good. Next, over at number 16, we have Elden Ring, the Shadow of the Tree DLC. Now, this is a DLC expansion, of course, but this is a long-awaited one for a beloved game, and frankly, it's absolutely massive. You're getting almost a whole game here. Not as long as the original base Elden Ring, but still something you can pour hours and hours and hours into. Exploring an entirely new region, fighting new bosses, embracing new gameplay and progression mechanics.
If it's even a boss.
It really has a lot. It's pretty much everything you'd want in an expansion, and also a FromSoft expansion. It's one of their best ones. They really know how to do it, and there's absolutely a lot of cool shit to be had here. This is a new release, and it's definitely going to be the one that Elden Ring fans are going to be playing for a while.
It looks amazing.
Next, over at number 15, we have Batro. Now, you may not have heard of Batro, but all you need to know is that it's a poker roguelike. It's all about building deck hands, and like making big moves and getting big combo scores.
What
Keep
the
in
hell
mind,
is
also,
this?
you don't
What?
need to be a poker player or like a poker or cards person to really get into this. It's easy to jump in and understand, and anybody that has become absolutely addicted to it. What seems like a silly little light game on the surface is a game that has taken Steam by storm. Like how a year or so ago, the big addictive and unassuming game was Vampire Survivors, now it's Batro. There's a reason why this game is overwhelmingly positive on Steam. It's awesome on Steam Deck. It's coming to mobile at some point. Either way, it's one of the best and most addictive games of the year.
I've never
so
even
far.
seen this game before.
Next, over at number 14, we have Animal Well. This is an indie game published
Also,
by
haven't
Big
heard of
Book,
this one.
the publisher founded by YouTuber Donkey. And their first game is a banger. Animal Well is awesome. It's essentially like a low-key exploration Metroidvania.
I don't know,
No
boy.
guns or swords or combat or anything like that, but just vibes and really clever puzzles
Honey, can you
and
pass me my
interesting
coffee up there,
environments. The game is visually absolutely gorgeous. The sound design, the visual effects, everything
you
going
very
on
much.
here is incredibly satisfying and pleasing to look at and experience. And this game has had puzzle people and Metroidvania people hooked for a while. It's filled with secrets and just lots of creativity. You haven't played anything else really like Animal Well this year. I can guarantee you that.
No, I
Next, over
guarantee
to
I
number
haven't.
13, we have Enshrouded. This big
This one
open
looked
world
good, but at the
voxel-based
same
RPG
time,
feels a bit
you still
different
have
than
to,
what
like,
you'd
build up
usually
your
play, just
base,
because
and
it's very much
it's a survival.
crafting
Yeah.
focused game, but it also doesn't get itself lost in the drudgery of that. This game is still first and foremost about RPGing, questing, exploring. The developers had Zelda as an inspiration, but really it's just a fun game to play alone or with friends because it feels like a cut above your average
Is this co-op?
survival RPG thing. A lot of those are frankly pretty busted.
guess it is co-op,
but
huh?
Enshrouded feels quality. It's got a cool world to explore with
Maybe
multiple
me and
players.
Pud play
You can play with up
Enshrouded
to
at
16
some
players, and it's been well received. You know, very
Maybe.
positive on Steam. We've enjoyed it, but it's only in early access, so there's more to come. And ideally, it can only get better and better from here. We'll be watching this one's career with great interest.
It looks
Next,
pretty
over
good.
at number 12, if we're talking about early access games, we also have Hades 2. Despite being an early
Oh
access
yeah, I
game,
never played
this
Hades 1.
feels pretty complete. There is like
I heard that one
full-ass
was
game to play
amazing.
through here, and it's more Hades. I don't think that's a bad thing. Obviously, there's a bit more going on, but if you did play the original, you know what you're in for at this point. A really, really fun hack and slash roguelike that is just so much fun to play. Visually, gameplay wise, everything here is just totally on point. And at this point, the developers, Supergiant Games, you know, behind so many things like Pyre, Bastion, Transistor, they really know what they're doing. They've really
I don't know any of those games, bro.
out. But with like a sequel to Hades, it's allowed them to really refine and blow out those concepts even further. Plus, you get new characters, new music, new art, just all that stuff that they're really good at. But most importantly, at the end of the day, it's fun to play. The combat absolutely kicks ass. Like I said, this is another one in early access, so ideally, hopefully, it only gets even
I didn't know
better
that one
from
was
here.
still in early access. That's kind of
Now,
weird.
number 11, we're sticking with the early access thing, and we're talking about Manor Lords. This has become a smash hit.
I saw this one.
PC, developed
Everybody told me
by
not to
a
play.
Very small independent studio.
'Cause I wouldn't like
really
it.
Kind of taking some PC folks by Steam because it's a really great hybrid. You got your big scale tactical medieval battles, but it's also a city builder, and a city builder with like some economic depth. It's also incredibly well detailed, and it's got a little bit more of like a realistic feel to it, and it really does make good on the whole like you ruling your lands, like you actually being this like medieval lord. You have a lot
It
of
looks
control
good. It
over
looks
the
very
city building
complicated.
aspects. The seasons change. You're worried about your citizens, you're worried about food, but of course you're worried about other kingdoms and warfare. It really is ambitious, and it takes on a lot, and for such a small team to absolutely nail it already so far, that's really impressive. We did it before you buy on it, we absolutely enjoyed it, but there's some things it could definitely use down the line, and we're thinking that with the success of just the launch of the early access, they have the resources and opportunity
Oh, I'm
to
sure
make
they
this
do.
game
Yeah.
even better throughout 2024 and beyond.
They made a lot of money on that, I'm
Next
sure.
over at number 10, Final Fantasy Rebirth. Yes, the follow-up to Final Fantasy VII
You know,
remake
I've
is
heard
absolutely awesome.
mixed
It continues the
things
trend
about this one.
of absolutely blowing out the original Final Fantasy VII.
I heard it was really,
showing us
really
more
good,
of those
and then I heard it
worlds,
was
more
like
detail, more
okay.
life, and continuing the story of Cloud, Tifa, Sephiroth, and everything in between. Obviously, there are definitely some wrinkles in this story, but what you get with this one is a massive JRPG adventure with open world elements.
I think the
There's
main
a
reason
lot
people said it
more
was
going
okay
on
is it
here
doesn't
compared to
follow
Final
the
Fantasy
story
VII
or something
Remake.
exactly.
It's like, this is like a full meal of a game. I'll tell you that. If you can't get enough of those characters, like we certainly can't, you definitely should jump into this. Now, next over at number 9, if you're looking for something a little bit different, consider Nine Souls. This released
This one I've heard
recently
really
on
good things
Steam
about.
by small developer and publisher Red Candle Games.
And I
it
watched the trailer,
absolutely took
and it looks
Steam
good.
by storm. This one went a little viral because it's just a fun 2D action platformer adventure game. So you play as almost like a cat-like badass little creature on a quest to slay 9 of these big ruling gods. And
is
you're
that
jumping
why it's
around,
called
you're
Nine
platforming,
Souls?
you're quick attacking, and it's just an absolute blast. Definitely requires some serious skill, and I would say, even though it's a very different style game, if you're still waiting for Hollow Knight Silk Song, I'd say try
I'm not.
Nine Souls. This can be a very challenging 2D, almost
Hollow
Souls-like
Knight
game,
was
but
so
like
hard.
I said, the
I didn't
art
even beat
style,
it.
the skill tree, the
Quit.
combat feel, everything here is absolutely
I'm gonna have to start all
awesome.
over.
I know we've talked about a lot of Metroidvanias on this list already, but this one is a cut above. It really feels refined and almost perfected in a lot of ways. Next over at number 8, we have Tekken 8. See what we did there?
Oh, yeah.
There's a new Tekken, and it's absolutely
Tekken 8's amazing.
awesome. They're continuing to introduce new characters to it, and if you're not playing Street Fighter, chances are you're probably playing Tekken. This one
Truth.
plays great, it feels great, it looks great, and how they've managed to make Tekken feel this fresh after all these years, how they continue to do it, I don't know. Maybe it's just the lovable characters. Maybe it's the feel of the fights. Or maybe just a little bit
It's
of everything.
everything.
You know, just like a little special spark.
Dude, me and him are on, we're on wavelengths
Is
over here, bro.
absolutely awesome. The only problem is that it still doesn't have a Waffle House fight arena. That's been like a thing going viral online.
Really?
People asking Harada for a Waffle House stage. I
What
still
the
really want one.
hell?
I'm putting my
A
hat in the ring
Waffle
for that. Either way,
House.
memeing aside, Tekken 8 is awesome. And if you like a fighting game, either casual or hardcore, this has a little bit of something for everyone. I know that's like a cliched phrase at this point, but really. Next over at number 7, we have Pal World, the game that was
Pal
initially
World.
dubbed as
Fun
Pokemon
game.
with guns.
It is.
Actually is a lot more. It's more like Ark Survival Evolved with some
Kind of.
Pokemon in it. Pal World is a survival game first and
More like
foremost.
Pokemon.
Through and through. And with that, all of the awkwardness, the jank,
Whooshy.
you know. But despite that, adding the Pokemon or monster collecting and training element just makes it so
Heard they
much
came out with
better.
PvP
This game's still in
lately.
early access and definitely needs a lot more. You know, more worlds, more bosses, more story, more refined mechanics.
needs a story.
Some fixes to the glitches.
'Cause there's,
and
like,
bugs,
no
but
story
People
there.
went nuts for this game for a reason. There's something about it that is just so appealing. Is it like maybe the addictive Pokemon loops mixed with the survival game crafting stuff and how those kind of work together?
Kind of.
I think so. I think that's probably the magic ingredient here. Either way, Pal World is cool, but it's a great start. It still feels like it's only just the beginning, and we're hoping that with that game going so viral, it just becomes a bigger and better thing over time. Next over
I
at
agree.
6, we have Senua's Saga, Hellblade II.
Great
Now,
game.
I don't
Amazing
think it's as good
game.
as the first game. Unfortunately, I had some issues with this one. But still, even despite that, the game has found an audience. We've seen a lot of people that dug this one just as much as the original.
Yeah, it
if
was
not
about the
more.
same.
This is a very story-focused game. It's a very simple game to play. There's not too much to it, but it does have some harrowing combat moments and some exciting bits and set
Oh, yeah.
pieces. And the best thing I can say about it is that it is very different. You know, from a story
It is.
standpoint,
Extremely
just a
different.
visual aesthetic, setting, style. You've never really played another game quite
Nope.
like this one. Again, it's a simple game to play.
Very
It's still
simple.
an experience nonetheless. And if you get it for cheap or if you get it on Game Pass, it'll only take you a few hours to complete, but it is quite the adventure. Next, down at number
Awesome
5, we
game.
have Helldivers 2, the multiplayer game that took place
I have
on
not
PC by
played
storm It's just
Helldivers
absolutely
yet.
awesome. It's a fun cooperative shooter where you run and gun with your friends, exploding aliens, calling down ordnance, dropping.
I haven't heard anything about it in a while.
Weaponry, accidentally killing yourselves in the process. It's just such a good time. And with the Starship Troopers inspiration here, the over-the-top parody, it just makes it that much more special. This is how you do a live service game. The fact that I barely even feel like it's a live service game. It's just a multiplayer game that they add things to occasionally. There's a battle pass, there's like stuff to grind out and collect, but ultimately it's just being in those moments, playing with your friends, blowing away giant enemies like, you know, bugs and robots. It just makes
I wonder
it feel
if
special.
I should play this
It's a good
game.
time. You'll have
It's
some
a-
laughs. It's nice and challenging. It's
kind
just
of
a
a
solid
iffy
multiplayer
one
game.
for me.
The likes of which we don't see as often as we used to. Next, over at number 4, we have Pacific Drive. This is a really cool sci-fi game, a kind of survival.
Oh yeah, this
game
one looks pretty good.
set in a region of the Pacific Northwest that's been,
This one came
cut
out
off
already?
from the
I
outside
didn't know
world
that.
because of scientific anomalies and time loop problems. So it's up to you to go through this area in your old beat-up car, researching, collecting items, scavenging, and upgrading your vehicle to go even further.
It looked very
is
interesting when I watched the
absolutely
trailer for
awesome.
it.
It is incredibly challenging, oftentimes
Is it?
kind of frustrating, but equally rewarding. Driving these lone roads at night with your car on the verge of breaking down and just unknown scientific anomalies and dangers around every corner. It just really makes every single run you do feel like a real adventure. This was one of my favorites of the year. The Game Ranks crew really loved this one, and you should consider checking it out.
Maybe I will
Now
then.
over at number 3, we have Stellar Blade. Stellar Blade
Yeah, I
is
wanted
an
to play
action
this one. This
adventure
one
hack
looked
and
really
slash
good.
game with a really unique feel to it. It's a post-apocalyptic
Yeah.
future, and you play as Eve, a soldier designed only for eliminating these special creatures, and you set out to do that. She's agile, she has dodges, she has special dashes, special
What's
parry
that?
attacks, over-the-top attacks, and it makes for some really satisfying and incredible combat, especially when you're facing off with some over-the-top bosses. Some of the set pieces and big moments in this game are absolutely jaw-dropping.
They look
And I know
amazing.
Stellar Blade got a lot of word when it released, but I still think it's flying under the radar a bit. I think
Really?
some people just wrote it off.
It's
or some
because it's
people
a
don't realize
PlayStation
just how
exclusive.
much fun it really can be.
Oh, really? That
There are
sucks.
moments like with the main character and the story that just feel absolutely generic and kind of forgettable, but the moment-to-moment gameplay, the combat, and the adventuring is top-notch, and we totally recommend it.
Bro, it's
Now
because
down at
it's a
number 2, we
PlayStation
have
exclusive.
Rise of the Ronin.
That's
this
why.
is essentially the developers
Rise of
behind
the
Neo
Ronin.
1 and 2.
Also
and Wolong
PlayStation
Fallen Dynasty.
exclusive.
Their
Also
take
looks
on
really
something
good.
like a Ghost of Tsushima. You're going through feudal Japan, adventuring, hack and slashing in brutal, kind of Souls-like combat. The game is a little bit more forgiving than their previous games, and it does have some open-world filler stuff here and there, but ultimately, the combat is just so much fun.
Game looks
and
incredible.
Getting around and traversing is so much fun that it makes up for some of the game's shortcomings. People have been absolutely loving this one because you can just create your own character and jump into this world. There's kind of like a 2-character rivalry dynamic that makes things a little bit more interesting. Historical characters show up, but this game also doesn't take itself too seriously. It's got good violence, good gore, some over-the-top moments, and even if it's flawed, it's absolutely worth playing. Now down at number 1, we have
Number 1.
Dragon's Dogma 2. Dragon's Dogma 2 is essentially more Dragon's Dogma. And
I
that is
mean,
certainly not
I have this on my wish
They
list.
took everything that worked
I
with
bought
original
the first
game,
one
everything that
so
people
that I
loved
could
about the
play
game,
this one.
really a cult classic at this point, and they gave us more of it. It's a bigger, more dynamic, more interesting world. You have more pawns, and with that means more crazy over-the-top goofiness, but incredible enemies to face off against, great RPG systems. Dragon's Dogma 2
There's just
also
too many
just
good
manages
games
to
coming
feel
out, bro.
Different compared to other
So many good
open-world
games.
fantasy RPGs out there. That's why we love the original game, and that's why we really like the second game. Capcom has done it again, so really, you should check it out at this point if you haven't. It's probably going to be one of the bigger games of the year. Those are 20 best games we got for you.
It was.
We also got a couple of bonus
Absolutely
games we
was.
squeeze in a top 20. The first is Tales of Kenzera.
I remember when they announced
I know
that
we've
one.
talked
That
a lot
one
about
looked
2D
pretty good.
Metroidvania games, but this one's a little bit different, a little bit more focused on story and dialogue, and it's interesting. Also, Lorelei and the Laser Eyes. If you're looking for
I haven't
like,
seen anything
exploration
on that
puzzle
one.
games, look no further because people have been dubbing this one of the best puzzle games to release
Really?
in years. Also, Ubisoft's X
Oh
Defiant,
my
the
God, do not
multiplayer
play
shooter
this.
that, to be honest,
Blech.
we didn't really love, has managed to find an audience and a player base, and it seems like people are digging it.
Nope.
Well, those are some of the 20
I'm
best
not.
games of the first half
Call
of
of Duty.
2024. We know we couldn't fit them all here. We know
same
there's
game.
other games out there that you may love, so let us know in the comments what you've really been enjoying. If you got your own top 5 or something like that, be sure to hit us up. But with that, we'll see you in the second half of the year, where hopefully there's more good games to come. Either way, if you like this
I'm
video
sure there will
and
be.
you like talking games with us every day, clicking the like button's all you got to do.
Click
really
it.
helps us out. And if you're new, consider subscribing.
Subscribe to
And hit the
Game
notification
Ranks.
bell, because we put out videos every single
Every day.
But as always, thanks.
Oh wow, I cut him off. That wasn't even me. That was his own mic, bro. That's crazy. Subscribe to Game Ranks. They make good gaming content every day. It was a good list. Definitely been a lot of good games this year. So many that I just can't even keep up with them. Sucks.